Good morning, everybody. Meteorologist Jim Dickey here with another edition of Tracking the Tropics here in the ABC 7 Hurricane Center. It's been a very active start to 2020. In fact, I could have cut another video earlier this week because we had another named storm, Edouard, form and track across the northern Atlantic. It was a fish storm, didn't impact anybody, but notable in that it was the earliest fifth storm, or E storm, to form in any hurricane season during the satellite era on record. And now we're likely to see the earliest sixth storm, or F storm, on record too. Now, as you look across the entirety of the basin, all around, it's fairly quiet out there. What we consider the main development region from the Caribbean to the coast of Africa, it's pretty quiet, as we expect this time of year. Nothing going in the Caribbean right now, nothing going in the Gulf of Mexico, but off the coast of North Carolina, there's an area of low pressure. We've been watching it all week, and now it's back over the waters, and it is likely to develop into a tropical, subtropical depression or storm over the next 48 hours, per the Hurricane Center in their latest update. No surprise when you look at just the water temperatures alone. So first things first, in the sea surface temperature map, you see that area of deep orange, that sort of thin line that sort of parallels the coast of Florida, then goes up the coast of the Carolinas and tracks out to sea near Cape Hatteras. That's the Gulf Stream. That's a warm current of water that comes out of the Florida Straits and goes up the East Coast. That's always there. And you see I have a number of 84s marking that Gulf Stream. But I want you to look and see the colors there off the coast of Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York into New England. Water temperatures are running well above average. We're talking numbers in the 70s and 80s as far north as Massachusetts right now. So plenty of fuel for tropical development as this area of low pressure works its way northward. And as we take a look at the satellite presentation this morning, showing signs of trying to get its act together. Now, where you see all the yellow showing up on the satellite here this morning, east of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, that's some thunderstorm activity. It's all to the east of where the presumptive center would be. To me, that marks that this isn't going to be purely tropical as this comes together. This is looking more like a non-tropical low starting to form, a nor'easter perhaps, trying to develop. And as you look at the satellite presentation, or the radar presentation rather, we are seeing a little bit of wrapping in that reflectivity, even in this low resolution right now. But again, all signs this is starting to get its act together, and in all likelihood, it will develop into a tropical, or I think even more likely, a subtropical sort of hybrid depression or storm before the day is through. Per the NHC, 80% chance of development in their latest update. If it takes a name, that name would be Faye. And yes, this is unprecedented for this to form so early, this sixth storm of the season to form this early in the year. When we look at a typical hurricane season, things don't typically crank into gear until we get to August, in particular September. In fact, we've seen a number of Julys where we see nothing forming whatsoever. Not so this year. And so if we do get the sixth storm to form, it would be way outpacing the average. The average date for the sixth or F storm to form September 9th. Last year, we didn't get the sixth storm for none until September 3rd. The earliest ever was 2005, and that storm formed on July 22nd. Now, we do not want to be compared to 2005. You think back to that year, we got all the way into the Greek alphabet, naming tropical systems. A number of horrible landfalls in the United States. Remember one, including Rita, including Wilma here in Southwest Florida, and of course including Katrina. Now, numbers-wise, yes, we are outpacing 2005 so far as named storms are concerned. But with hurricanes, major hurricanes, there's been more storms. They've all been fairly weak this year, whereas in 2005, we already had a major hurricane at this point in the year in Dennis. We had a landfall in Cindy. Dennis was about to make landfall a few days from now in 2005, and the next storm, Emily, was also a major hurricane. So yes, while numbers-wise we are on pace with 2005, we haven't seen the strength of storms just yet. Now, I'll be keeping this comparison as we continue through the season here, and hopefully 2005 begins to outpace us here quickly, because again, we do not want to be on pace for that season. That's for sure. Now, here's your spaghetti plots with this potential Faye. It's going to move to the north here, no question there. Going to take the track of, again, sort of a typical nor'easter. And those of you in the northeast, if you're watching this, that's what I sort of want you to expect from this, because it's not going to be too unlike a strong nor'easter. As I put the European forecast model into motion, this is by Friday at 2 a.m. We do have a closed isobar there off to the east of North Carolina. That would mark again, this likely coalescing and coming together, perhaps that named depression or storm at that point in time. Tracking off to the north, and you see the area of heavy rain by the time we get to Saturday, spreading its way into New England. That's at 10 o'clock. We'd likely be seeing wind-driven rainfall at this point in time. But the exact track will be important here as to who sees the worst of the rain, who sees the worst of the winds. We're going to see some coastal flooding no matter what, especially at high tide. But if the center track's a little further to the west, that rain would spread into parts of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York. If it stays on this track, yeah, the worst of the rain would be in New England. So that's something we'll be honing in on the forecast here as we go forward. But I do think of note, as you look at the intensity plots on this, models, generally speaking, fairly unimpressed with the potentials for this to really ramp up quickly. Again, the waters are warm, so something to watch for, but I think at this point, the idea we have some type of strong hurricane or something going up the East Coast, I think that is a very low probability outcome. Tropical storm? Yeah, maybe. Subtropical storm? Possibly. A heavy rainmaker? Almost definitely at this point in time. So again, wind, not as much of a threat, but the heavy rainfall is a concern, along with rough surf and coastal flooding as that moves its way northward. And yeah, like I said, the rest of the basin looks quiet. So as you look at the Saharan dust tracker, there's lots of Saharan dust out there in the Caribbean and the eastern Atlantic right now. That continues to sweep its way westward. Remember, Saharan dust acts as a stable layer in the atmosphere, so it's going to be hard-pressed for anything to get going out there from the Gulf, the Caribbean, to the coast of Africa, going through really much of next week. So for those of us here in Florida, nothing to worry about anytime soon. Of course, we'll be tracking what becomes of this system, possible Faye, going forward through the day today. So stick with us to ABC 7 for updates. Until then, I'm meteorologist Jim Dickey. Have a good one.